In 1603, a foot soldier named Matahachi survived the Battle of Sekigahara by hiding under a pile of corpses for 2 days. He emerged covered in blood that was not his own, missing 2 fingers he had not noticed losing, and carrying a spear that belonged to a man whose name he never knew. When he finally reached the nearest town, nobody asked him what had happened. They already knew. Sekigahara had produced somewhere between 30,000 and 40,000 dead in a single day, and men like Matahachi were walking back into villages all across Japan, trailing evidence of it. And the thing that should genuinely disturb you about that story is that Matahachi was one of the lucky ones. You are not Matahachi. You are a samurai in feudal Japan at the dawn of the Edo period, and you have been told your entire life that this is the highest honor a man can hold. You have been told about bushido, about loyalty unto death, about the sublime dignity of the warrior class. Over the next several minutes, I am going to walk you through what that actually meant. The smell of it, the weight of it, the specific, documented ways it was killing you even before anyone pointed a weapon in your direction. Now, let me take you inside the physical reality of your existence. You are wearing between 30 and 50 pounds of armor assembled from hundreds of individual lacquered iron and leather plates laced together with silk or leather cords. The lacquer is beautiful. The cords are catastrophic. They collect blood, sweat, mud, and rain, and they do not dry out. Historian Karl Friday, writing on the material culture of the samurai, notes that the cord lacing of traditional armor was a near-perfect incubator for lice, mold, and the bacteria responsible for skin infections that could, and regularly did, turn fatal before any battle began. You have been wearing this armor for weeks. You smell exactly like what you are, a man who has been fermenting inside lacquered iron for a month. Your sword, the thing you have been told defines your soul, weighs roughly 2.5 to 3 pounds and requires years of daily practice to use effectively. You have put in those years. What nobody mentioned is that a katana is a poor weapon against armored opponents, which is most of the opponents you will actually face. The real killing at Sekigahara was done with spears, arrows, and firearms. The Portuguese had introduced the arquebus to Japan in 1543, and by 1600, Tokugawa Ieyasu fielded somewhere around 30,000 gunners. Your sword is a symbol. The arquebus ball does not care about symbols. But we haven't even gotten to the food yet, and that's worth staying for. Your diet is rice. Specifically, it is white polished rice, because white rice is what the warrior class eats, and brown rice is for farmers and people who have not yet grasped the concept of status. The problem, which nobody in 1600 has fully grasped, is that polishing rice strips away the thiamine. Thiamine deficiency causes a disease called beriberi, which produces weakness, nerve damage, heart failure, and death. Edo period Japan had a name for beriberi, Edo wazurai, the Edo sickness, because it was so catastrophically common in the capital that it functioned as a background condition of urban warrior life. You are slowly poisoning yourself with every bowl of the food that marks your superiority. That is not a metaphor. That is a nutritional fact documented by physician Takizawa Bacon in the early 19th century, and the pattern runs straight back through the period you are living in. Here's the thing about samurai medicine that most people get completely wrong. The popular image is of a warrior culture with a sophisticated understanding of the body and a stoic relationship with pain. The reality is that Japanese medicine in 1600 operated primarily on Chinese humoral principles involving the balance of qi, blood, and fluid, filtered through Buddhist frameworks about the body's fundamental impurity. Physicians treated sword wounds by packing them with substances, including rice paste, ground herbs, and in some documented cases, material that introduced infection faster than the original wound would have. The Hagakure, the famous samurai text compiled by Yamamoto Tsunetomo in the early 18th century, contains extensive advice on dying well. It contains considerably less advice on surviving medical treatment, which tells you something about the expected outcome. And it was into this world of infected armor and polished rice and physicians armed with rice paste, that the political reality of your life arrived. You are a samurai in 1600, which means you are property of your lord, in every practical sense that matters. The Tokugawa consolidation of power following Sekigahara did not liberate the warrior class, it bureaucratized it. Samurai were now legally required to live in castle towns, away from the agricultural land that had historically been their economic base. They were paid in rice stipends. When rice prices fell, which they did, their income fell with them. Historian Mary Berry, in her work on the Edo period, documents samurai families across the 17th century selling their swords, pawning their armor, and taking up trades. Their class technically forbade them from practicing, all while maintaining the formal obligations of warrior status: the correct dress, the correct address, the correct posture before superiors, on an income that no longer supported any of it. The Ronin problem is what happened when this system produced its inevitable outcome. A samurai without a lord was a Ronin, and by the mid-17th century, Japan had somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 of them. Men trained for violence with no institutional outlet for it, and no legal means of supporting themselves. The Shimabara Rebellion of 1637 to 1638, which killed approximately 37,000 people, was fueled significantly by desperate Ronin. The 47 Ronin incident of 1703, which the Japanese would turn into the defining story of samurai loyalty, was 47 men who had spent 2 years as masterless outcasts, working as merchants and laborers and monks in disguise, before committing the act of revenge that would get them ordered to commit ritual suicide. The story Japan told about them celebrated the loyalty. It was quieter about the 2 years of poverty. Now let me tell you about seppuku, because you have been told about it your entire life, and almost everything you have been told is wrong. Ritual self-disembowelment was not a daily practice or a casual response to dishonor. It was a formal legal procedure, often ordered by the government rather than chosen freely, governed by strict protocols about who could perform it, under what circumstances, and who would serve as the kaishakunin, the second who would behead you after the initial cut to prevent prolonged suffering. The kaishakunin role required considerable skill, because a clean cut was a mercy, and a botched one was a catastrophe that dishonored everyone present. Samurai practiced the correct posture for seppuku. They rehearsed the correct expression. The entire ritual was as bureaucratized as everything else in Edo, Japan, which means that even your death was subject to administrative review. You would have woken before dawn in a castle town that smelled of rice cooking and open drainage channels, pulled on armor whose cords had never fully dried, eaten a bowl of the food that was quietly destroying your nervous system, and presented yourself to a lord whose political survival depended on the Tokugawa hierarchy in ways neither of you fully controlled. You would have practiced with a sword that was increasingly ceremonial in a world that had moved to firearms. You would have worried about your stipend, about your family's status, about the gap between what your class was supposed to be and what your class was actually surviving as. You would have received medical care that was delivered with genuine expertise and genuine confidence from within a framework that was wrong about most of what it was confident about. And if you survived all of that, if you survived the beriberi and the infected armor and the arquebus and the collapsing rice economy, you would have died in a castle town at an average life expectancy somewhere in the mid-40s, having spent your entire life performing a version of honor that the system around you was quietly dismantling from every direction. The only difference between you and Matahachi, bleeding in a ditch outside Sekigahara, is that he knew what had hit him.